I met Mohanji about 2 years ago at a retreat in Virginia. And I was not familiar with Mohanji or who he was. I was actually introduced to Mohanji via a friend that I know. Her name is Thea from Arizona. And I hadn't spoken to Thea in a while, and I was compelled to reach out to her a few weeks prior, and then we ended up speaking, and she had mentioned Mohanji and the retreat and how she was excited to go, and she was like, "You should come." And I thought, "Oh, great, that sounds like something I may need," but I wasn't sure at the time if I would be able to go. However, um, Thea ended up speaking with my mother. They both had to speak with each other. And Thea then also introduced the retreat to my mother. And my mother pretty much latched on like instantly. And she had never done a retreat like that. But it was so interesting to see how she just gravitated like really quickly towards it and was like, "I want to go. When is it happening?" And so I knew at that point that I definitely had to go. Not that I didn't want to go, but it just confirmed for me that, yeah, I have to go, because I knew that the only way my mother would definitely go was if I went. And so I thought, okay, this is probably something we both need to experience for our own, purpose. So we registered, and it was great. And so my experience during the retreat was pretty amazing. In general, just my personality. When I am in like a new crowd or around new people, especially when we're in situations where it's about spiritual growth and understanding, I'm always a bit more reserved because I'm really kind of going much deeper and sinking deeper in myself. And so it was really interesting to see everyone on the same accord. It was good seeing everyone on the same accord, and it was really refreshing seeing all the people that came together to be in the presence of Mohanji. So of course I was like, "Who's Mohanji? Like, who is this man?" It's one thing to hear um, people say things, and it's a whole other thing to experience it yourself. And I think Mohanji is I think it's about experiencing Mohanji, because experiencing Mohanji, I've come to realize, is a very bespoke and custom experience. It's very different for everyone, and no one person is going to experience the same thing. I'd hear people who are already very familiar with Mohanji about their experiences with him, and I'm just doing what I do, kind of going inward and observing and just saying, okay, well, let me hear more, but also very reserved. So the more the more I listen to Mohanji during the talks, the more practice we did during the like meditations and the yoga class. It was like nourishment, in a way. It was a new food that I was eating. It was new spiritual food for me. I've always been fairly spiritually grounded, kind of always in that space of wanting to grow and wanting to learn and, wanting to have all my karma settled, so to speak. But it was a different spiritual meal. And I think that's what it was. I was just tasting and savoring this spiritual meal differently. My eyes were a lot different in terms of my growth, where I had arrived or where I had come from to where I was in that moment. So it was a different space energetically that I was in within myself. And going to that retreat really, I believe, allowed me to step over a threshold, to kind of walk into another space within myself and to really look even deeper at those things that I needed to resolve and or come to better understanding with. And so one of the things that Mohanji talked a lot about, or that I remember, at least that, not verbatim, but at least that sticks with me, was just witnessing oneself. And that's something that I would say I carried forward even after the retreat. This whole idea of being able to witness yourself as just watching yourself, witnessing yourself, seeing yourself in this way, for me was gave me more understanding. It gave me more patience. It gave me more wisdom. And it allowed me and continues to allow me to react, or to be less reactive emotionally. And so I would definitely say that my experience with Mohanji has allowed me to witness myself, has allowed me to see myself in a different way, in a clearer way. You know, when I talk about talk about witnessing myself, it's as if I am seeing myself like outside the body in a way. I'm seeing what's coming up, and I'm able to see exactly why that's coming up, versus just being in a space of emotional despair or stress or uncertainty. I'm able to feel and understand those emotions. And somehow, I think in doing that, it's allowed me to be much more calmer, even in the midst of emotional storms or uncertainties. It's allowed me to stand more still within myself. And that's something that I will say that I walked away with, and that I still just kind of effortlessly apply in my day-to-day life. And it sometimes is really interesting witnessing yourself. You're sort of like, oh, okay, all right. I'll find that I'm feeling or responding a certain way to something, and then I'll instantly go, you know what? I get it. It's okay. And I find that there's this constant reassurance that it's okay. So I would say, like, after the retreat, I had a very personal experience that I thought was interesting. And I remember I had typed a question about it in the WhatsApp when this first happened. And so, after speaking to Mohanji, obviously, he had recommended I listen to the Sivakacham. I believe I'm saying that right. The Sivakacham Manu. Yes, the Sivakavach. Sorry, Sivakavach. And so Manu had sent it to me, and gave me instructions on when to listen to it and all of that. And I did, the number of days I should listen to it. And I think about like midway through, I think I was supposed to listen to it for like 10 days. And that was also, before I even get into the experience, it was really, that again was my first experience, because, you're hearing Mohanji's voice, and I'm listening to this, before I'm going to bed, and it's, bringing me deeper into like my rest. And so I would say about midway through the 10 days, I had woken up to the Siva Kavach on, and I did not touch it. It was like the phone was on the was far enough away from me where I would not have touched it. And it was a really interesting moment because it was like around 3:30 in the morning that it came on all by itself. And it's still on my phone here. And so I literally would have to, in order for me to play it again, I would literally have to manually unlock my phone, go to the app, and hit play. So, after some time, your phone goes silent, the lights go down. So, again, that was my experience, in that the phone came on all on its own without me having to touch it, to unlock it, to hit play. And I thought that that was the most realist experience I had with Mohanji, in that it was like, oh, right, okay, all right. And so I listen to that every now and then, only when I feel there's this like need to really listen to it. And so, and I don't necessarily have to listen to it for longer than a day, to be very honest with you, for me to start noticing something that's happening. And I would have dreams at one point. I remember I had this dream maybe a few months later, maybe like 3, 4 months later. I was somewhere and everyone was there with Mohanji, and Mohanji, was his presence was so bright, and I just it felt very real. So it was a very kind of a very real dream. And so whenever I notice like I'm feeling like I need to feel more pulled in and pulled together, Mohanji will kind of pop in my brain. And so even though I haven't seen Mohanji in physically, he'll kind of enter my thoughts, and or I'll get a pull to listen to the Savakavach, the Sivakavach, and I'll listen to it, and something will happen. Like, I think the last time I listened to it, I'd say about a day later, Lata had reached out to me to participate in reading a chapter from Mohanji's book. And it was just so interesting, because I remember I was just like, I need to listen to this. Yeah, I need to listen to the Siva Kavach. And I just felt like I needed it. And then with a few days later, Lata had reached out to me, and I thought, okay, that's probably why. So it's little things like that that will happen. And sometimes randomly, I'll just, remember the retreat and remember what he said to me. And what he said to me was just talk to me, that's it. And sometimes I'll just do that, like randomly, I'll be like, hey, Mohanji, what is going on? And, something like that will happen. And so I think that if you ever get a chance to experience Mohanji, you have to trust that your experience is your experience, and that that's your unique experience. And you don't necessarily need to compare it to anyone else's, because I think that's what's going to take away any authenticity. Just allowing Mohanji to show up, is the best way. Or allowing yourself to just, listen to those pulls that you get. So it's been really good for me also, as far as my mother goes, to watch her and her relationship. And I'm sure she'll have an opportunity to do this video, but it's just wonderful watching her relationship with Mohanji. And something I'll share is I have a young baby. Well, he's not a baby anymore. He's just turned 4, but when he was much younger, like maybe 3, 2, something like that. I'd say about 2.5, 3. My mother would have Mohanji's picture, and he would know Mohanji by name. And I remember I was visiting, and he was just so beautiful and sweet. And I remember saying, "Well, who's that?" And he was, "That's Mohanji." He said, "That's my dad." And it was just so sweet, the connection that he even had with Mohanji. So that's when you realize there's very something special about being in the presence of Mohanji, that it resonates with you. Obviously, even if if you connect, you connect. But my experience with Mohanji has definitely allowed me to be in a space of being more present and letting go of, learning to constantly let go of attachments, and to constantly remind myself to work out of a space of love and peace, so that I'm not energetically holding on to anything or anyone. So that has been my experience thus far with Mohanji. This is how I met Mohanji at the retreat, and how he continues to have some type of influence over sometimes how I'm thinking about something, or how I'm processing something. I'll read something, or, I'll just remember the retreat. And I think the thing that stood out for me too with Mohanji is that he's just this really cool guy. He's this cool man, who is saying a lot of, who's sharing so much, but he's real. There's a realness to him, and there's a genuine quality that is something that people have to experience on their own. And I would just say, if you have an opportunity to meet Mohanji, go and experience who Mohanji is. And that personal experience of Mohanji will start to plant little seeds in your life, in your thinking, and how you move forward, in just your whole being, so that the ultimate goal is to be free and liberated, So yeah, that's pretty much for me my experience in meeting Mohanji. And that's it. Take care.